The interstellar hub was alive with color and noise. Ships of every size and shape buzzed around, docking and launching. Aliens of every type moved through the corridors, some tall and slender, others short and chubby, some with glowing eyes, some with multiple arms. Humans were rare here, and most aliens barely noticed them. Among the crowd, Kale, a young human, felt like a small fish in a massive, glittering sea. He adjusted the strap of his utility pack and tried to look confident. He had come to the hub on a special assignment, delivering rare Earth technology to an alien client. But more than that, he was curious. Humans rarely traveled this far, and he wanted to see the galaxy with his own eyes. Kale's eyes scanned the hub, and then he saw her. She was unlike any alien he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like polished pearl, her hair floated around her, shoulders like liquid silver, and her eyes glowed faintly purple. The crowd seemed to part around her, giving her space as she walked with elegance. She was tall, poised, and undeniably beautiful. And to Kale's instant frustration, she completely ignored him. He took a small step forward, hoping she might notice him. Nothing. She walked past, her head high, speaking briefly to a group of aliens who seemed to hang on every word she said. Kale blinked. He had been prepared for curiosity, for a glance, maybe even a smile. But total, complete ignorance? That stung. Humans, muttered a nearby alien, a squat green creature with 4 eyes. They think they can handle a hub like this. Pathetic. Kale clenched his fists, but said nothing. He had learned long ago that arguing with aliens rarely ended well, especially when the alien was popular or famous. This one, he realized, must be the hub's equivalent of a celebrity. He wandered closer, keeping his distance but observing her. She spoke to everyone with grace, her voice smooth and commanding. And yet, she carried herself with arrogance. She didn't just ignore humans, she ignored anyone she deemed beneath her. Kale felt a spark of irritation, but also curiosity. Who was this alien? And why did she seem untouchable? As he moved through the crowd, Kale noticed small problems others were having. A young alien struggled with a heavy crate. A broken transport drone floated helplessly in the air, and an elderly alien dropped his data tablet. Without thinking, Kale stepped in. He lifted the crate with a quick calculation of weight and leverage, fixed the drone by adjusting a few wires, and caught the tablet before it hit the floor. Each action was quiet, almost unnoticed, except by the alien he had been watching. She paused, just slightly, as if sensing movement at the corner of her attention. Then she turned back to her conversation, dismissing him once again. Kale felt a small thrill. She had noticed him, even if she didn't admit it. By midday, Kyle had done more than anyone else in the hub realized. He fixed a broken cargo transporter, reprogrammed a faulty robot, and even helped negotiate a small trade dispute between 2 alien merchants. Each time he stepped back into the shadows, refusing any praise or recognition. Still, the alien remained distant, regal, untouchable. Kale watched as she floated past, her long cloak trailing behind her. Other aliens whispered about her brilliance and beauty. Some of them glanced at him too, making small smirks. They assumed he was a human trying to look important, and failing. Kyle ignored them. He was not here for approval. He was here to observe, to learn, and perhaps to show that humans were more capable than most aliens thought. During a break, Kyle sat on a bench near the observation deck. From there, he could watch ships launching and docking, aliens moving in all directions, and the hustle of the hub. He pulled out a small notepad and wrote quietly, noting observations about alien technology, social behavior, and even the way the arrogant alien interacted with her peers. A voice interrupted him. "Human," it said, sharp and amused. Kale looked up quickly. The alien stood before him, eyes narrowing slightly. She had come closer than anyone else dared, but her expression was still one of mild annoyance. "Yes?" Kale asked cautiously, keeping his voice calm. "I've been watching you," she said, her tone cool but curious. "You seem unusually active for a human. Fixing drones, helping merchants. It's odd," Kale shrugged. "I help when I can. No one else seems to care." Her eyes flicked away and she turned back to the crowd. "Humans are strange. Maybe there's more to you than I thought." Kale smiled faintly, understanding exactly what she meant. She didn't say it outright, but there was respect hiding under her arrogance. A small victory. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity. Kale continued quietly assisting others, observing, learning, and slowly earning small nods from aliens who had once ignored him. The arrogant alien remained a constant presence at the edges of his attention, sometimes near, sometimes far, always watching. As the hub began to quiet down in the evening, Kyle packed his things. He felt tired, but satisfied. Despite being ignored, despite being underestimated, he had made a difference. And somewhere in the crowd, the alien had noticed, though she would never admit it openly. Kale stepped out into the hub's outer balcony and looked at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns and full of people who underestimated him. But that did not matter. He was human, clever, and determined. One day, he thought, the galaxy would learn that humans were not to be ignored, and maybe, just maybe, even the arrogant alien would stop ignoring him. The next morning, the hub was busier than ever. Ships glimmered under the artificial sunlight, aliens moved quickly from one docking bay to another, and messages buzzed constantly across the interstellar network. Kyle walked cautiously through the corridors, carrying his small toolkit. He had been asked to check on a few delivery drones that had been acting strangely, and he thought this would be a quiet way to start the day. He almost missed it at first, the faint flicker of red lights from the transport hub's central docking station. Then he heard a panicked hum, followed by the loud screech of metal scraping against metal. Kale's heart skipped a beat. Something was very wrong. Racing toward the commotion, he saw the source. A small passenger ship had malfunctioned and was spinning out of control, threatening to crash into the docking platforms. Aliens screamed and scattered, some trying to stabilize their own ships, others running for safety. The arrogant alien he had been observing yesterday was nearby, her expression one of controlled shock, but she wasn't moving to help anyone. Kale's mind worked fast. He knew that if the ship hit the platform, dozens of lives would be in danger. He grabbed a magnetic tether from his pack and ran toward a maintenance panel at the edge of the docking station. "Move back, human!" shouted a security officer, waving a tentacled arm. "You'll get hurt! I can't just watch!" Kyle called back. He ignored the warning and leaped onto a maintenance platform that hovered near the spinning ship. Using his toolkit, he quickly connected the tether to the ship's hull, calculating the correct tension to slow its spin without breaking the magnetic coupling. His hands moved quickly, adjusting circuits, rerouting power, and stabilizing the control thrusters. The ship groaned and shook, sparks flying from its damaged systems, but slowly it began to level out. Kyle's heart raced. One wrong move, and the entire docking bay could have been destroyed. The arrogant alien watched him from the safety of a nearby platform. Her eyes widened slightly. This human, she had thought him weak, small, unimportant. But here he was, taking risks, thinking faster than anyone else she had seen. She felt a strange twist of admiration, though her pride would never let her admit it. Finally, with a final adjustment, the ship stopped spinning and hovered steadily above the docking platform. Kyle collapsed onto the platform, breathing heavily, covered in soot and sparks. The passengers, a group of small, furry aliens, scrambled out of the ship, shouting thanks in their high-pitched voices. The crowd of onlookers began murmuring, astonished at what the human had done. The arrogant alien stepped forward slightly, observing more closely now. Kyle had saved dozens of lives without asking for attention, without boasting, and without hesitation. That was impressive. She felt a strange flutter in her chest, but quickly shook it off. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but admiration, not something she usually felt for anyone. "Human," she said finally, her voice cool but curious. "You handle yourself well in dangerous situations. It is unusual." Kyle looked up at her, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thanks," he said simply. "I just did what needed to be done." The alien tilted her head slightly, studying him. Her arrogance remained, but there was now a hint of respect behind her eyes. "Do not think this changes anything," she said, though she sounded almost reluctant to finish the sentence. "Humans are still limited." Kale smiled faintly, not offended. He had learned long ago that alien pride often hid more than it revealed. "Maybe," he said, "but sometimes even small humans can do big things." The rest of the day passed in a mix of excitement and chaos. Other aliens began talking about Kale quietly, whispering about the human who had stopped a ship from crashing. Some were skeptical, some impressed, but all were curious. Kale returned to his tasks quietly, helping others repair damaged drones and transport systems, avoiding the spotlight as always. Meanwhile, the arrogant alien watched from a distance. She noticed him moving through the crowd, assisting others, always humble, always precise. Every time she tried to dismiss him, she caught herself paying attention. He was clever, brave, and competent in a way most aliens were not. She had underestimated him, and that realization stung more than she wanted to admit. By evening, the hub's activity slowed. Kale was checking one last transport drone when the arrogant alien approached. She walked confidently, her long cloak brushing the floor, but there was something different in her expression, something more personal, more focused. "You handled the situation today well," she said, her voice almost casual but with a subtle edge of admiration. "I did not expect a human to act so quickly or so wisely." Kyle looked up, surprised by her attention. "I just did what anyone should do," he said modestly. Her eyes narrowed slightly, studying him as if measuring his worth. "You are not like the others," she said finally. "Perhaps humans are more capable than I thought." Kyle felt a small thrill. Recognition from her was rare, and though she spoke carefully, he could sense the shift in her opinion. She didn't praise easily. She didn't give compliments without reason. The fact that she noticed him at all meant something. The alien turned and walked away, leaving Kale standing alone with his thoughts. He knew he had made an impression, even if she would never openly admit it. That small moment of acknowledgement felt like the first step in a much larger journey, one that would change the way the galaxy saw humans, and perhaps even the way this arrogant, beautiful alien viewed him. As Kale looked out at the stars from the hub's outer balcony, he smiled quietly. Humans might be underestimated, overlooked, and ignored by the galaxy, but he had proven today that even one human could make a difference. And somewhere out there, an arrogant alien had noticed. The hub was quieter than usual the next day, but the hum of activity never fully stopped. Kyle moved carefully through the corridors, his toolkit slung over one shoulder. Even though the major crisis from yesterday had passed, the memory of the spinning ship lingered in the whispers of the hub. Aliens were still talking about the human who had saved lives, some with awe, some with disbelief. Kale focused on checking transport drones that had minor malfunctions. His movements were calm, deliberate, and precise. He had learned from yesterday that acting quickly and quietly often drew more respect than loud displays of heroism. As he worked, he noticed the same elegant, arrogant alien moving among the crowd. Her gaze seemed to sweep across the hub, searching for something. Kale tried to ignore her. He knew that any direct interaction might be awkward, yet her presence was impossible to overlook. She walked with poise, speaking to the hub, staff with confidence. Her arrogance was palpable, but yesterday's events had left a subtle change in her expression whenever she glanced in his direction. Curiosity, perhaps, mixed with the faintest hint of admiration. As Kale approached a malfunctioning drone, he saw that two small aliens were struggling to attach a power cell. Their attempts caused sparks to fly dangerously close to the hub's main power conduit. Kyle didn't hesitate. "Step back," he said calmly. The aliens obeyed instantly. He adjusted the power cell with careful hands, aligning circuits and stabilizing the drone. In less than a minute, it was functioning perfectly. A soft voice interrupted him. "You do not fumble, human," the arrogant alien said, standing a few steps away. Her expression was unreadable, but Kale sensed a small trace of curiosity behind her eyes. "I like to get things right the first time," Kale replied without looking up. "Mistakes can be dangerous here." She tilted her head, studying him, silently. Her usual arrogance remained, but now it was tempered by something else: interest. He was different from the humans she had met before. Quick, clever, composed under pressure. She did not like that she found him fascinating. The hub's communication system buzzed suddenly. A security alert blinked across multiple screens. A high-speed cargo ship had lost its navigational link and was heading toward the docking station. The hub erupted in chaos. Aliens scrambled, trying to secure platforms, redirect traffic, and prevent collisions. Kale's instincts kicked in immediately. He raced to the control panels, analyzing the ship's trajectory. Most aliens panicked, shouting orders, but Kale remained calm. He sent rapid commands to stabilize the ship remotely, rerouting energy to thrusters and adjusting the docking guidance system. The arrogant alien observed from a distance, frozen in fascination. The human was taking charge, making quick decisions, and acting decisively. He was calm while everyone else panicked. She had never seen a human perform like this, not in her world, not in her experience. Something inside her shifted. For the first time, she found herself impressed. Finally, the cargo ship slowed, hovered, and aligned safely with the docking bay. Aliens cheered quietly, grateful for the human's intervention. Kyle stepped back, sweating but composed. He had not sought attention. He had acted because it was necessary. The alien approached him slowly, her expression carefully neutral. "You think too clearly for a human," she said, her voice controlled. "Most would panic or freeze, yet you excel." Kale gave a small shrug. "I stay calm when it matters. Panic doesn't fix problems." Her eyes narrowed slightly. She had never met anyone like him. He was clever, brave, and humble all at once. For all her arrogance, she found herself drawn to his actions, his quiet confidence, his skill, his unwillingness to boast. She had dismissed humans before. Now she wondered if she had been wrong. Over the next few hours, Kyle continued quietly assisting wherever he was needed. He fixed drones, recalibrated transport systems, and even helped resolve a minor trade disagreement between two alien merchants. Each time, the arrogant alien noticed him, sometimes lingering in the background, sometimes stepping closer under the pretense of observing hub operations. She never spoke much, but her attention had shifted. Kyle remained unaware of the subtle attention. He focused on his tasks, methodical and efficient, unaware that his actions were leaving an impression. The arrogant alien had begun to feel something new: respect, curiosity, and perhaps a faint admiration. She scolded herself silently for letting her thoughts drift toward him. Humans were supposed to be simple, limited, and beneath her notice. Yet here was one who had saved lives, worked quietly, and handled crises with skill. By evening, the hub's activity calmed. Kyle sat on a platform overlooking the docking bays, repairing a small transport drone he had saved earlier. The stars outside glimmered faintly through the hub's transparent walls, a reminder of the vast galaxy beyond. The alien appeared beside him, her presence almost silent. She leaned slightly on the platform railing, watching him work. "You are different from the rest," she said softly, almost as if speaking to herself. "Not arrogant, not careless, capable." Kyle looked up briefly, surprised by her proximity. "I just do what needs to be done," he said. Her lips curved, slightly, almost a smile, though she quickly returned to her usual stern expression. "Perhaps humans are not as simple as I thought," she murmured. Kyle returned to his work, unaware of how much his quiet words had affected her. She lingered for a moment longer, then turned and walked away, leaving him with the faint feeling that someone important had noticed him for the first time. As the stars shimmered outside the hub, Kyle felt a quiet satisfaction. He had acted, helped others, and stayed calm in chaos. And though he didn't yet know it, he had begun to earn the attention of the most arrogant and beautiful alien in the hub. A small seed of respect had been planted, and it would grow in ways neither of them could predict. The hub was unusually quiet in the morning, almost too quiet. Kyle sensed something was wrong even before the alarms began. A deep vibration ran through the docking platforms, and red warning lights blinked urgently across the hub. Kyle sprinted toward the control center. His mind worked fast as he analyzed the situation. A massive cargo ship, carrying valuable supplies from several nearby planets, had been hit by a sudden system failure. Its engines were overheating, and it was drifting toward the hub at alarming speed. If it crashed, the hub could suffer serious damage, and dozens of lives would be at risk. Aliens panicked, shouting in multiple languages, flapping arms and tails, and rushing to evacuate. Kyle ignored the chaos and focused on the problem. He accessed the ship's control system remotely, tracing the malfunction to a critical energy conduit. From a distance, the arrogant alien appeared, her eyes wide and alert. She had been observing the hub's activity for hours, and now she saw the human reacting faster than most experienced officers. She felt her pulse quicken, a strange mixture of fear and admiration. Kale called out to the crew inside the cargo ship, his voice calm but authoritative. "Stabilize the engines. Divert power from secondary systems. I'll guide you." The ship's crew scrambled, following his instructions. Kale moved between consoles, rerouting energy, and adjusting thrusters with careful precision. The hub's security drones tried to assist, but it was Kale's quick thinking that kept the ship from crashing. The arrogant alien could not hide her fascination. He was calm in chaos, thinking faster than any alien she had seen. He calculated risks, balanced outcomes, and acted decisively. She felt a strange respect forming, though she refused to admit it aloud. Finally, Kale's efforts began to show results. The cargo ship slowed, its engines stabilizing. It hovered just above the docking bay, shaking but intact. The hub's alarms gradually stopped, replaced by cheers and relieved whispers. Kale collapsed into a chair near the control panel, breathing heavily. Sweat ran down his forehead, but his eyes shone with focus and satisfaction. He had prevented disaster without hesitation or fear. The arrogant alien approached him cautiously, her usual air of superiority tempered by visible awe. "You saved them," she said, her voice controlled but softer than usual. "A human. You acted brilliantly." Kyle looked up at her, wiping soot from his hands. "I just did what needed to be done," he replied modestly. "No one else was acting fast enough." She studied him, her glowing eyes lingering on his face. Her pride made her want to dismiss him, but she could not. He was extraordinary. She had underestimated humans for too long, and now she realized how wrong she had been. "Humans are unpredictable," she murmured. I did not expect this level of competence. Kale smiled faintly. We may be underestimated, but sometimes that works to our advantage. The alien tilted her head, considering him. She had spent her life surrounded by beings who sought her approval, flattered her, or tried to impress her. Yet, this human had done nothing for attention. He acted out of instinct, courage, and intelligence. That combination made her curious and uneasy. For the rest of the day, Kale continued assisting where he was needed. He repaired drones, coordinated minor repairs to docking platforms, and helped stranded passengers. The arrogant alien followed him discreetly, observing his actions, silently measuring his skills. Each time he solved a problem, her respect grew. She could no longer dismiss him as ordinary. At one point, a group of aliens approached Kale, asking his advice on a technical issue with their ship's navigation system. He guided them carefully, explaining each step with patience. The arrogant alien watched the exchange, noting his ability to teach and lead without arrogance. His quiet confidence was compelling. As the hub began to calm in the evening, Kale found a quiet corner to rest. He checked his toolkit, making sure everything was in order. He was tired but satisfied. He had done everything he could, and it had made a difference. The arrogant alien appeared again, standing a few feet away. Her posture was still regal, but her gaze lingered longer than before. "You are remarkable, human," she said almost reluctantly. "Not only do you act with courage, but you think clearly, lead wisely, and help others without seeking praise." Kale blinked, surprised by her words. "Thank you," he said simply. "I'm just doing what I can." She paused, studying him. Her pride struggled with the growing admiration she felt. "I did not expect this. Humans. Perhaps you are more than I believed." Kyle smiled faintly, not realizing the impact of his presence on her. "We may be underestimated," he said, "but sometimes the unexpected happens." The alien turned and walked away, her thoughts in turmoil. She had never met anyone like him before, a human who was brave, intelligent, and humble all at once. She had ignored him before, and she had been wrong. Kale watched her retreating figure, unaware of how much his actions had affected her. He looked out at the stars through the hub's windows, thinking about the galaxy, its dangers, and its wonders. Humans might be underestimated, overlooked, and ignored by most species, but today he had proven that one human could make a difference, and somewhere nearby, an arrogant, beautiful alien had begun to see him in a new light. Respect, curiosity, and perhaps something more were slowly forming in her mind, a shift that neither of them could ignore. The hub was calm in the early morning, a rare moment of peace after days of chaos. Kale walked through the corridors, checking minor malfunctions and helping wherever he could. His presence had become familiar to the staff and regular visitors. Whispers about the human who had saved lives now carried a note of respect rather than disbelief. The arrogant alien, whose name was Solara, watched him from a distance. She had spent days observing him, watching him work, seeing him handle crises, and noting how he treated others. Each day, her curiosity and admiration grew, but her pride, as always, prevented her from admitting it openly. Today, however, something was different. Kale was helping a group of young aliens repair a communication array when Solara approached him without hesitation. Her long cloak brushed the floor, and her glowing eyes held a subtle warmth he had never seen before. "Human," she said, her voice firm but with an unusual softness. "I wish to speak with you." Kale looked up, surprised. Most aliens gave orders, questioned or ignored him. Few sought him out intentionally. "Of course," he said, standing and dusting off his hands. She walked closer, her expression carefully neutral. "You have acted bravely and wisely over the past few days," she said. You handle chaos with calm. You help others without seeking reward, and you think beyond what most would expect. I admire that. Kale blinked. He had expected respect from others, perhaps even gratitude, but admiration from someone like Solara, arrogant, beautiful, and influential, was completely unexpected. I just do what I can, he said modestly. Solara tilted her head, her glowing eyes studying him. Most humans are ordinary in ways I understand, she admitted. Yet you are extraordinary. I suppose I should say something I rarely say. I am your biggest fan. Human. Kyle froze for a moment. The words seemed almost impossible. The Solara who had ignored him, who had walked past without a glance, was now admitting admiration openly. He felt a mix of surprise, pride, and a little amusement. You really mean that? He asked, cautious but curious. Solara's lips curved slightly, almost a smile, though she quickly returned to her usual composed expression. Yes, she said firmly. I do not give such words lightly. You have earned them. Kale laughed quietly, shaking his head. I never expected a compliment from you, he admitted. Or anyone, for that matter. Her eyes flickered with something unspoken, perhaps amusement, perhaps curiosity. You have done more than expected, more than most could. It is difficult for me to ignore that. Kale's modesty softened the moment. I don't need praise, he said. I just try to help when I can. That's enough for me. Solara studied him for a long moment. She had spent her life surrounded by beings who sought to impress her, flatter her, or gain her attention. And yet this human had done nothing to seek her favor. He acted out of instinct, courage, and intelligence. That made her admiration more genuine, more compelling. You are unlike any human I have met, she said quietly, or perhaps any being I have met. Kale smiled, feeling an unfamiliar sense of connection. I suppose I've been lucky, he said, and maybe a little stubborn. Solara's eyes sparkled faintly. Stubbornness can be useful, she said almost teasingly. And courage, too. Kyle laughed softly. I've learned that sometimes you have to act, even when others doubt you. Waiting doesn't help anyone. Her gaze lingered on him, softer now, warmer than he had ever seen. Perhaps humans have qualities I have not fully appreciated, she said. Perhaps I underestimated you. Kale's modest grin widened. I think most of the galaxy underestimates humans. That doesn't mean we aren't capable. Solara's lips curved in a subtle, rare smile. You are a reminder of that, she said. I cannot deny that, and I find myself compelled to watch, to learn from you. Kale blinked at her words, realizing that her pride and arrogance had softened in ways he never expected. She had begun to see him as more than a human, more than ordinary. He felt a thrill at the thought, a mixture of surprise and quiet pride. The two stood together quietly, the bustle of the hub continuing around them, yet in that moment, the world seemed to narrow. Solara, usually untouchable and cold, had admitted admiration. Kale, usually modest and overlooked, had earned her respect. Finally, Solara took a step back, regaining her usual composure. Do not misunderstand me, she said, her voice firm again, though softer than before. I am still selective with my attention, but today I acknowledge you. Kale nodded, understanding perfectly. That's all I could ask, he said, smiling. Solara gave a small nod, a rare gesture from someone who rarely showed vulnerability. She turned, walking gracefully away, but her eyes lingered on him as she disappeared into the crowd. Kale watched her go, a quiet satisfaction warming him. The arrogant alien, the one who had ignored him completely at first, had admitted admiration. It was a breakthrough, a step toward something neither of them could have anticipated. He returned to his tasks, but a new confidence accompanied his movements. He had earned respect from one of the most impressive beings in the hub, and that knowledge gave him strength. As he repaired a minor malfunction in a hovering transport drone, he glanced toward the edge of the hub where Solara had disappeared. He wondered what she was thinking now. He knew that her admiration, though newly admitted, would grow. And somehow, he felt certain that this was only the beginning of their story, one that would involve danger, cooperation, and perhaps friendship, or more. The stars outside the hub twinkled faintly, a reminder of the vast galaxy filled with unknowns. Kale smiled quietly to himself, ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. For now, one thing was clear. He had earned the hub was alive again with movement. Ships glimmered under artificial lights, and aliens moved purposefully between docking bays. Kale walked through the corridors, carrying his toolkit and checking systems as he had for days. Today felt different, though. He sensed a shift, not just in the hub, but in how people looked at him. Whispers followed him now, but with respect instead of disbelief. Solara, the arrogant and beautiful alien, appeared nearby, watching him. Her posture was calm, but her glowing eyes were alert. She had spent days observing Kale, and now she felt compelled to act. She approached him, her long cloak brushing the floor. "Human," she said, her voice firm but carrying a note of warmth. "We have a problem. A transport convoy is approaching from the outer rim, but the route is unstable. I need your help." Kyle looked up at her, surprised but ready. "Of course. Show me the details." She led him to a control panel overlooking the docking routes. A series of maps and blinking lights displayed the incoming convoy. The outer rim route had suffered damage from recent meteor storms, and the convoy risked collision or misdirection. Kale studied the maps quickly. "We need to reroute the first two ships to safer channels, then stabilize the route for the remaining convoy. It will take precise timing, but it's possible." Solara nodded, impressed by his quick analysis. "I will handle the communication with the convoy crews. You manage the routing and stabilization," she said. They worked together seamlessly. Kale adjusted thrusters, synchronized docking bays, and recalibrated sensors. Solara relayed instructions. To the convoy, her usual arrogance replaced with cooperation. The two of them moved like a well-practiced team, each respecting the other's abilities. Aliens in the hub began to notice. Many whispered to each other, astonished to see the once arrogant Solara working alongside a human without condescension or superiority. Kale's quiet confidence and skill complemented her authority perfectly. At one point, the first convoy ship approached a damaged section of the route. Kale calculated the exact adjustments needed and relayed instructions. The ship glided safely through, and Solara's eyes flickered toward him, a subtle smile forming. "Well done," she said softly. Kyle glanced at her, acknowledging her praise with a modest nod. "We did it together," he said. The next ship followed, and the process repeated. Kyle coordinated the route, while Solara communicated with the crew and managed other hub operations. Their teamwork was efficient, precise, and flawless. By the end of the day, the entire convoy had docked safely, with no accidents or delays. Solara turned to Kyle, her usual pride softened by genuine admiration. "You have proven yourself not only capable but reliable and intelligent. I underestimated humans." Kyle smiled faintly. "Most species do, but we adapt, and sometimes that makes all the difference." Her eyes softened as she looked at him. "I see now that humans can be extraordinary," she said. "And you, Kyle, are a prime example." Kyle chuckled quietly. "I just try to help where I can." Solara nodded, a rare expression of humility in her posture. And that makes all the difference. The hub began to quiet down in the evening, the stars outside twinkling faintly through the transparent walls. Kale and Solara walked along the observation balcony, looking at the distant ships in orbit. For the first time, they shared a moment of calm together, the tension of the day replaced by mutual respect. "You know," Kale said, "I never expected to work alongside someone like you when I first arrived. I thought I'd just be a human observer, unnoticed and overlooked." Solara smiled faintly, her arrogance tempered by honesty. "And yet here you are. You have earned not only respect, but my trust. That is rare." Kale's heart warmed slightly at her words. Trust from someone like Solara was more valuable than any reward he could imagine. "I appreciate that," he said. She nodded, glancing at the bustling hub below. "There will be more challenges ahead. The galaxy is not gentle to the unprepared. But I have learned that humans, and especially you, can rise to the occasion." Kale smiled, feeling a growing sense of purpose. "Then we face them together," he said. Solara's eyes sparkled faintly, a mixture of respect and something harder to define, perhaps admiration, perhaps curiosity about what the future held. "Together?" she agreed. The two of them returned to the hub, moving side by side. Aliens who once whispered skeptically now observed with awe. The human and the once arrogant alien were a team, efficient and capable, challenging old assumptions about both species. As they walked, Kale thought about the journey so far. From being ignored to being noticed, from underestimated to admired, he had come a long way. He had shown that humans could act bravely, think quickly, and handle responsibility. And now, with Solara by his side as an ally, he knew that together they could face anything the galaxy threw at them. Solara, for her part, felt a subtle shift within herself. She had begun to see Kyle not just as a human, but as a partner and equal in intelligence, courage, and skill. Her arrogance remained, but it no longer blinded her. Instead, it had evolved into genuine respect and interest. The stars outside the hub shimmered as night fell. Kale and Solara stood together on the balcony, looking out at the galaxy. They were different species, from different worlds, yet they had found common ground in bravery, skill, and mutual respect. Kale spoke quietly, almost to himself. "Humans are underestimated, yes, but maybe being underestimated is an advantage. People never see what we can do until it's too late." Solara's eyes softened as she looked at him. "And now, human, I will never underestimate you again." Kyle smiled faintly, feeling a mixture of pride and amusement. "Good," he said. As the hub lights dimmed and ships settled for the night, Kyle and Solara knew that this was only the beginning. Together, they had proven that humans could rise above expectations, even in the eyes of the most arrogant and powerful beings. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, new adventures awaited, challenges they would face together, as a team. For the first time, Kale felt certain that the galaxy would never overlook humans again. And Solara, once arrogant and distant, had found someone worth noticing, a human who had changed her view of the galaxy, and perhaps of herself.